I'd like to call to order our Palm Beach County Transportation Disadvantaged Local Coordinating Board for Wednesday, November 15th, 2023. We've got the Zoom up and running. Let's let you know that the TPA is conducting this meeting in person and virtually using the Zoom webinar platform. Instructions on how to join our virtual meeting, as well as contact information for assistance, is provided in the published meeting agenda. So let's go ahead and start with the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic.
Thank you. If staff could please call the roll so that we can assure that we have a quorum. Okay. Could staff please call the roll to assure that we have a quorum?
At this time, I am only asking those board members attending in person to respond by saying here when I call your name. I want to remind you to unmute your microphones by pushing the button on the base prior to responding. Alternates, please also state your name if you are attending on behalf of a board representative. Mallory Sennett is absent. Nancy Yarnell.
Here.
Win Dang is absent. Lisa Amador is absent. Angela Choice. Robert Goodman. James Green. Basti Amaro.
Present.
Robin Manuel. Marlene Ramnon. Laura Schultz. Elizabeth Clark.
Present.
James Bonfiglio.
Here.
Michael Corbett.
Here.
Lou Ferry.
Here.
Takesha Saffold is absent. Chelsea Reed.
I am here. Thank you so much. And we have a lovely view of Melissa for a moment. She's helping me with my iPad. All right, just a moment. All right, so we're all set with a quorum.
Additionally, we have the following board member requesting to participate remotely, James Green.
All right, board members, do we have any objections to allowing Mr. Green to participate remotely?
I'm sorry, and Angela Choice as well.
Okay, and Angela. So do we have any objection to allowing Angela and James to join us remotely today? All right, so seeing none, these members are approved to participate remotely. And please note their attendance in our minutes. Do we have any modifications, deletions or additions to our agenda today?
No, Madam Chair.
All right, great. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and I'll take a motion. We don't have any changes to the minutes then as well?
No, Madam Chair.
All right, so let's take a motion and a second to adopt the minutes as presented, please.
I move to approve the minutes for August 23, 2023.
Moved by Bonfiglio and our second.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you so much. All right, so let's move along. We have the opportunity for general public comments now. Instructions on how to provide public comments are included in the agenda. Do we have any general comments that have been accepted yet?
No, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you so much. As most of us that are here know, this has been a very challenging few weeks with the loss of our executive director to PalmTran, Mr. Clinton Forbes. And we're going to ask everyone if we could please take a moment. You're welcome to stand if you are able, or you're welcome to stay in whatever position you're comfortable in. We're going to take a moment of silence to honor the life, legacy, and memory of Clinton Forbes. Thank you. And, so it is with deep sadness and heavy hearts that we had to take that moment of silence, because we had the sudden passing of an esteemed colleague and local champion, Mr. Clinton Forbes. And it is an immense loss for our organization, our community and for all of us who had the privilege of knowing and working with Clinton. Our city council and the city of Palm Beach Gardens was with him that night. He came to present. He was just in front of us just hours before we lost him. And that night, as always, he was engaging, brilliant, charming, insightful, and just as always, just a phenomenal leader for our community. We all know that Clinton was an extraordinary individual dedicating his life to making a significant impact in the lives of others. And his unwavering commitment, passion, and tireless effort to provide access to transportation for all has left an indelible mark on our community. Let us all remember his extraordinary contributions and honor his memory by continuing the important work that he started. His passion and dedication should serve to inspire us every day. His spirit will forever remain an integral part of our organization and our community. So at this moment, I'd encourage our board, if you have any words to share, you pop your card up, and let's just take a moment for Clinton. All right, Vasti.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's with a heavy heart that I express my condolences to the Forbes family, the Palm Tran family, to my fellow board member, Lou Ferry. I've had the privilege of knowing Clinton for the last about 12, 13 years within the transit industry. I watched him excel coming up the ranks along with those of us who are in transit about the same time at Jacksonville. He did wonderful things at Columbus, Ohio, and as well as Palm Tran. We were just with him at the Conference of Minority Transportation Officials, where he was passionate about making sure that those of us who are not in the transit space in government, but also in private, to make sure that we too had the opportunity to do what we love to do, which is to serve the people through this wonderful space that we do with public transportation. And Clinton was committed to making sure that everyone who wanted to have a part in transportation had an opportunity to give their talent. And so on behalf of Procel Mobility and my firm, Vasti Transport, we just, we honor his memory and the legacy that he leaves to those of us who had a chance to walk with him along his career, and also those who he mentored along the way. We are deeply saddened, but we know that we're gonna keep his legacy to continue on throughout the industry. Thank you, Madam Chair, for allowing me the time.
Thank you for your words. All right, we'll go ahead. Do we have any other board member comments for items that are not on our agenda? Anyone in Zoom land wishing to speak right now at all?
No, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you so much. So we have no further comments from our board. We're going to move on to our liaison report. So if I could have Brian Ruscher, our TPA Director of Multimodal, review our liaison report and come on up to the podium. Or do you want, or do you feel like sitting?
I'll sit.
All right.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the local coordinating board. Just wanted to go briefly over the liaison report for November 2023 with you all. So first order of business, the TPA family is growing. So I'd like to welcome Margie Tamblin, Planner 1, to the Transportation Planning Agency. Please stand and give her a wave. Margie's joining our multimodal team, and she'll be largely working with us on the pedestrian bicycle transit initiatives, including assisting with efforts for this agency, for this body as well. So we welcome her. She comes from the private sector with experience, lots of experience in geospatial analysis. So we're really happy and to have her on our team. Really thrilled to be working with her. There was a national transit survey launched by Bow Stern, which is a marketing firm, and they're trying to collect sentiments about transit use statewide. So it felt like this was an apt piece of information and note for this local coordinating board to consider taking and then sharing this survey as well within your respective agencies, bodies, and newsletters. So please do take a look at that sometime after the meeting, or if there's a brief intermission, you can also look at it there. The city of Lake Worth Beach is conducting a mobility plan, and as part of their mobility plan, they are seeking input for how people are using the transportation system to move to and through their city. So they are seeking input from members of the public who go to or through or live, work, and play within their municipal area. The URL is tinyurl.com/LWB-mobility. Encourage you all to please also share that with your networks for colleagues, peers, friends, if you are know of anyone in the city of Lake Worth Beach. So the Commission for Transportation Disadvantaged next business meeting will be held virtually on December 11th for those of you who would like to attend. It is nice that we get to attend these meetings from our desk from time to time. We don't have to travel to Tallahassee or to Orlando. So that's quite a benefit for those who are interested in learning more about the CTD at the statewide level. And lastly, the CTD, Commission for Transportation Disadvantaged, will be making a presentation to the TPA Governing Board on December 14th. So if you are so inclined, we strongly encourage you to attend the Governing Board meeting on the 14th to meet with the members of the CTD. And I think, Lou, you have a little bit more information for us on that Governing Board presentation as well.
Yes, thank you. So first of all, they wanted to come visit us. They were trying to make it to this meeting today, but unfortunately they couldn't make it. So they're going to attend that governing board meeting. And one of the reasons is to educate the governing board about the TD program and how that fits into Florida. But the other reason is I was supposed to go to a conference way back in August, late August. I think last time I saw you guys, I told you I was going to the TD conference. But unfortunately, Hurricane, I think it was Idalia, came to visit the western part of Florida. And since half the transit agencies that were going to go had to panic and do something about it, they canceled that conference. However, I did nominate this board for the Outstanding Coordinated Board of Florida, and I'm happy to say you guys won. So congratulations. You guys are going to be named the Palm Beach County Transportation Disadvantaged Local Coordinating Board is the best in Florida. So thank you very much for all you guys do. I handed out, I don't know if you got a chance to read it last time, but I handed it out last meeting, all the things that I said about you guys. So, but really it's wonderful. The biggest thing I think, we'll hear what the TD Commission would have said at that conference in front of all my Florida transit peers and others. But the biggest reason is because you guys show up and you care. And really that's the big thing. And thank you for everything you guys do for the community and for the transportation advantage and for transit in general. So thank you.
All right. Well, thank you for that. We are going to try to get a group photo next. So if we could get the local coordinating board to come up, we'll take a picture with the chair. And then our executive director was kind enough because of your outstanding award to buy us all cake. So we're going to, I guess, suggest a brief intermission. If that's acceptable, we'll take a photo, we'll grab a piece of cake, and then we'll continue on with the rest of our meeting.
It is my pleasure to adjourn this meeting for 5 minutes so that we can celebrate and have cake.
So Lou is going to read a little bit of the language that he used to nominate us and some of the great work and accomplishments that we achieved. Just as a quick note, the Transportation Disadvantaged CTD will be presenting these awards, the governing board on the 14th at 9 a.m. here in this room.
Back to reality. Okay, so let's see. Some of the questions were identified by the number of meetings you guys hold. Do you actually actively participate? The unique characteristics of the board. I think one of the things that got them was at each board meeting we offer the ability for you guys to actually explain what you do, so that other people on the board understand that you can actually help the people next to you by knowing what they do, not just coming to a meeting and doing that. But some of my additional comments were the Palm Beach County Local Coordinating Board is a compromise of individuals that truly care about the community and the transportation disadvantaged. Led by Chairperson Chelsea Reed, this board's focus has been to advocate for and encourage the coordination of transportation. Coordination in its true sense, where all parties are involved and focused on the same goal, creating alliances with all transportation providers while ensuring the delivery of reliable, compassionate, high quality, and on-time services to the transportation disadvantaged population. They've been an integral part of shaping the face of transportation in Palm Beach County. Each member fosters the team philosophy among all transportation participants, promoting a positive attitude within the communities and helping to increase consumer advocacy for transit. We have members that are active in the community and don't just show up for a quarterly meeting. They encourage stakeholders to ride transit. Past few years have been difficult for everyone as we rebound from the pandemic. With the collective efforts of the Palm Beach County LCB, the DOPA, and the CTC, and the TD program in the county continues to improve service, delivery, and increase customer satisfaction. I'll just go through this. So they're not afraid to tackle any subject, whether it's the budget, service hours, or a discussion on prioritizing trips. Palm Beach County does not have to worry about not having a quorum. The members take pride in the work they do and make sure they show up. So through the dedication, organizational and leadership skills, the Palm Beach County Local Coordinating Board is the perfect nominee to be named the Outstanding Coordinating Board of the Year. So there, that was part of what I said.
Ta-da. All right. So with that, let's reopen the Palm Beach County Transportation Disadvantaged Local Coordinating Board for November 15th. And thank you, Brian, so much for that presentation. Thank you to our executive director for the delicious cake. And thank you so much for nominating this board. We are all very, very proud to serve with you. And thank you to our amazing board for showing up and for caring and for sharing all of your information. All right, so we're going to move on. We have to move on to our action items now, and a little bit of sugar. We should get right through it. We are going to move on to our motion to certify our fiscal year 2023 annual operating report, and this will be from PalmTran for the presentation.
I'm going to defer to Claudia Salazar on this first.
All right.
Yes, thank you.
Good afternoon, Claudia. Thank you for coming.
Good afternoon, everyone, Madam Chair, distinguished members of the board. Thank you so much for remembering Mr. Forbes today. I have seen you before this year when we set up the rates for this great program, for the Transportation Disadvantage program that we run here in Palm Beach County with your help. We get a grant every year. We bill monthly for this grant. We cover different information of what we do. And as a requirement to keep qualifying for this grant, we have to submit an annual operating report. You received a copy with your agenda. And what I'm going to present today is just a summary of what we had so that we have a clear understanding of what we have accomplished, what we do with these grant funds, and why we need you to continue to advocate for us to keep receiving these funds. Again, this is a requirement, an annual requirement that we have to do, and the information that is collected is presented by the Commission of Transportation Disadvantage to the state every year. So they are also accountable for how they distribute and how they request the funds to continue for the years to come. Again, this is per statute. It has to be submitted by the 15th of every year, and once submitted and reviewed, the local coordinating board is supposed to approve it. You also receive the document that requires your signature so that we can submit it to the commission and said we have covered this step to continue with that approval that they have to bring to the state in January to continue with the program. The overview that we have right now is what have we done this year? What are the things and how have we changed over the last 3 years? We have trips that we have covered again with fixed route with bus passes that we provide. We are not charging those bus passes to the grant, but we wanted to let you know the stuff that we're doing. The bus passes, people qualify based on their income. And a regular monthly pass that costs $75, they get to have it for $20 or $15, allowing them again access to public transportation to do their everyday activities. We have a deviated route in the Glades called Go Glades. It's a pilot program that has been funded in a different way. It is different of what we do, and that's why we have zero information because none of the dollars that we have are included there, but this is a disadvantaged area. We wanted to mention that we have that service there. Work number one for PAMTran Connection is the complimentary ADA trips. PAMTran runs the buses. And it is a requirement, it's a federal requirement that within 3/4 of a mile of any bus route, we provide transportation for those who are unable to access the bus. That again, don't have the accessibility or cannot work the 3/4 of a mile to get the bus. That's what Connection does. With that, we can see again the number of trips that we did. I wanted to check, okay, yes, that we have done over the last 3 years. So we have 533,965 ADA trips, which are required, and they are funded by Palm Beach County. Paratransit is what it's called again on the Commission for the Transportation Disadvantage. Every trip that we do beyond that ADA requirement. And these are the trips that meet our definition of transportation disadvantage. These are people that do not have access to public transportation and they don't have access to a vehicle. And we get to do that with this. We provide 78,000 trips, and that's what we bill for during the year with the amount of grants again that we receive. So right now we're covering with this service 744,516 trips that we did in 2022-23 year, providing those who are transportation disadvantaged. This information is collected when people schedule their trips, where are they going, and you get to see the variety, the most important trips that we provide: access to employment, medical services, training, people going to daycare, and we have adult daycare in Palm Beach County. Nutritional, people that get to go to the senior centers to have their meals, life-sustaining, people that are on dialysis, people that are going to their doctors or to their treatments. So that's the different variety that we have, and we are required to report on what are people doing with these trips. The vehicle data that we have, more than anything, and for the numbers that we have, the perspective that I want you to have is we have 148 buses to provide our service, and we have again, right now, 310 vehicles for PAMTran Connection. So it is a huge fleet that is there. And the main reason is how big our county is. We go again from Belle Glade to West Palm Beach, from Jupiter to Boca Raton. So it is again almost double the number of buses that we have. Over 9 million miles that we transported people during 22-23. There are again breakdowns. We do have accidents. These are accidents again that are happening during the day for everybody that is going to where they need to be. And we have right now 377 drivers. We are still not at 100%, but much better than last year and getting there to the numbers that we need to keep the service. The summary that we have in the specific is what did we do this year? Like I mentioned, it's over 700,000 trips, over 9 million miles. And there's a number to show again for no shows. We had 22,000 last year, and then we have that 2,000. And the discrepancy that we have for those numbers. I don't know if you remember, we were trying to do a rate model. It was, do we just report transportation disadvantage? Do we report all the trips? And that's the discrepancy that you have. So when we isolate just the transportation disadvantage, it's about 2,000 no-shows that we had. But it's good to compare because we're still around 25,000 no-shows for 22-23. The kind of rearrangement that Connection has to do, all of the work that gets when people just do not show up, they canceled. We had the conversation about what can we do to reduce 20,000. And the understanding was, you saw the number of medical trips that we have, and the bulk of no-shows are for people who they are scheduled to go to dialysis, they get hospitalized. Of course, nobody's gonna call Connection. Yes, Lou.
Also, just to note too, the TD fiscal year is from July to June. So if you look at that 2020 to 2021, that's during COVID. So there's a lot of no-shows because we scheduled trips and there's a lot of people that didn't show up or didn't want those trips. And so it was a little bit of a volatile time, if you remember.
We have had a conversation again with the commission, and we are going to be reporting now for the total numbers of, again, no shows. So if again, next year, I'll remind you again, where we have 2,000 and then we're gonna have 25,000 for the following year, I will make sure that, again, I give you the difference between what we do with transportation disadvantage and with the ADA. People are most likely to complain that call for commendations. So we do have complaints, but we also have great recommendations. I just wanted to look at the numbers of complaints that we have. And again, out of 744,000 trips that we have, we did have 1,700 trips, but look at the percentage. I mean, it's not even 0.5%. We are doing well, and there are things that do not happen the way that they're supposed to in some days. And of course, people are gonna call and complain, and it's just gonna make us better to keep providing excellent service. I need to know if you have any questions.
All right, wonderful. Thank you. Staff, do we have any public comments or anyone in the world of Zoom trying to speak?
No, Madam Chair.
All right, how about my board members? Do we have any questions otherwise on this presentation? All right, beautifully done.
Thank you so
You left
much.
us questionless. All right, so we are going to go ahead and I'm going to seek a motion and a second to adopt the fiscal year 2023 annual operating report, or AOR.
I move to, it says certify in the agenda, certify fiscal year 23 annual operating report as set forth in our agenda action item 2A.
Thank you. May I have a second, please? That was Mr. Bonfiglio.
I'll second it.
All right, so we've got Laura for our second. We don't have any further discussion, so let's go ahead and take a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes unanimously. Thank you so much. So that has been adopted. We'll move right on to our information items. The first information item is fiscal year 2023 annual expenditure report. And this is because of the TPA and our role as the DOPA. Hi, Brian, if you could go ahead and give us that report.
Good afternoon, Brian Ruscher, Deputy Director of Multimodal at the Palm Beach Transportation Planning Agency, here with an incredibly abbreviated presentation for you because much of the information you received in the AOR presentation presented by Claudia Salazar just now is the same information you will be receiving in the AER. So I think I have 3 slides total in the agenda backup under item 3A. Just wanted to go through that. This is the expenditures report rather than the operating report. So this looks at the expenses of Palm Tran Connection, which totaled $47 million and provided in greater magnitude of 744,000 trips. This does not include funds that are used to match local money in the number of trips. And the numbers are obviously for fiscal year 23. Excuse me, that's a typo on the slide. They should be fiscal year 23. So this is an informational item only. We provided comments to the Palm Tran Connection Agency, the CTC, already. So there's no action required from this board. It's just for informational purposes only on the expenditures. So with that, any questions?
Fair enough. I don't see anything. Anyone, public comment or Zoom?
No, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you so much. And don't go anywhere because we're also going to talk about our LCB member training.
Yes, thank you. Agenda packet down there, so I can't see what's next. Once again, Brian Ruscher, Deputy Director of Multimodal here for the TPA as your liaison. So this is the annual member training that we were required to provide to you as the local coordinating board. There are a few items which we did already address in the previous LCB meeting, namely our grievance procedures and our bylaws. So you'll see a little bit of that. You will see a little bit of what we do overall as an agency and a little bit more information about how we operate as partners with the state, our transportation provider, and others. So just a brief outline. We're going to go through the TD program. We're going to go through the local coordinating board overview, as well as your duties and how we are administering ourselves here at the local coordinating board. So what does a transportation disadvantage program typically look like? There's 4 key actors in any county or any metropolitan area which is operating similarly to what we do with Palm Tran Connection and the TPA. First most important acronym for you to know is the CTD, Commission for Transportation Disadvantaged. These provides coordinated transportation services statewide. These are a resource provider at the state level, which funnels information and resources down to your DOPA, Designated Official Planning Agency, and your Community Transportation Coordinator, or CTC. Now, the DOPA and the CTC both have a unique function. The CTD assist the DOPA at the local level with fulfilling its obligations on reporting and ensuring that we have a transportation disadvantage service plan, and we operate as a checks and balance to the Community Transportation Coordinator, the CTC. The CTC is responsible for providing those transportation services. Lastly, our local coordinating board, all of you in your glory of being the best one for the last fiscal year, identifies our local service needs and advises the CTC, Palm Tran Connection in this case, on how to operate and provides comments on its service in an advisory capacity. So we are the best in the state. I just wanted to give that an additional shout out again. The Transportation Disadvantage Program largely provides for people who don't have access to the transportation system that they would regularly engage with. They might be people who have different mental or physical abilities, different income statuses, or are unable to transport themselves for whatever reason, or purchase transportation services. And there's a little diagram on the screen, which is really a Venn diagram that shows all the different intersections between these. Sometimes you might have someone who is lower income that also might be aged, more aged than another, and that would be kind of like a cross-cutting category. You also have someone who might be disabled and low income. And in this case, you might be eligible for multiple categories in the Transportation Disadvantage Program. So these things are not mutually exclusive. We know that these characteristics are not cross-cutting. Everybody's at a different point in their time of their lives when it comes to these types of their abilities, their income status, and their age. So this is what the program is here to provide for. Now, there are a ton of flowcharts that the state likes to publish, especially at the Department of Transportation. So what we try to do is we try to interpret these and provide a little bit more information about how we can overlay information and provide just a little bit more clarity about how this works. So from the top to the bottom, the state of Florida is led by the Office of the Governor, which has mandated the CTD, Commission for Transportation Disadvantage, to have a transportation disadvantage program statewide. And they operate that program through your CTCs and your designated official planning agencies, and they are advised by your local coordinating board. That essentially is what this flow chart is telling you. I'm not going to ask you to read all of this information because it is extensive. Now, What does the local coordinating board do? Largely, this entity is an advisory body which is intended to provide assistance to our CTC, Palm Tran Connection, to ensure that you are giving the transportation disadvantaged population the services that they need. So that's largely what the local coordinating board is here to do. It also helps us to assist the designated planning agency, the TPA, with its various roles and responsibilities as quarterly meetings and occasionally grievance procedures if they arise. Currently, we have 18 members with 2 vacancies. Membership is rescinded after 3 consecutive unexcused absences for membership. So just to take note of that, that's in our bylaws. We have the current bodies represented on the screen here with 2 vacancies from the Florida Department of Transportation, which we should receive an appointment for at our next governing board meeting, and the Department of Children and Family Services as well. We're hopeful for that appointment to move forward as well. So you should have 2 new members in your meeting at your next regularly scheduled meeting in February. Now, your duties. So, of course, first and foremost, we need you at our meetings. As I spoke before, unexcused absences could require the rescinding of your membership on the body. We have to go through a series of steps to ensure that we are administering this body well and within the law. So we have bylaws, we have grievance procedures and a grievance subcommittee to ensure that we are providing the transportation disadvantaged population with the services. In addition to that, we also have to ensure that we have a review and an approval for the AER and the AOR respectively. We also publish a transportation disadvantaged service plan, which if you notice on our agenda, we're going to hear about some of the efficiencies that are moving through the process right now with Palm Tran Connection. We're very excited to hear about, and we're very excited to learn more about. We also evaluate on an annual basis our CTC, which many of you participated in, and I think helped us push into the Best of the Year award. And then annually must appoint a vice chair to support our wonderful chair. Of course, the TD service plan is one of the key documents that we produce every year. It outlines how we are going to provide transportation services to our partners and to our transportation disadvantaged population. We annually update very minorly this document, meaning, changes in small service, how people are accessing the service areas. That changes every so often. We publish a major update every 5 years. So if there's any major changes, we try to refresh pictures, redo formatting, ensuring that we're totally in line with what the CTC is providing. We do that on a 5-year basis. On the CTC evaluation, the local coordinating board helps the DOPA conduct this evaluation. So you all go out, you ride Palm Tran Connection, you interview people who are riding the service on their determined routes. And it helps us evaluate the operations and performance and gets us a sentiment and a touch point with the actual service that we're providing to people as well. Now, the administration, this part we already went over at the last meeting, so I'll go briefly through this element here. The LCB has procedures and processes that they must follow by state statute. Florida Statute Chapter 427 and the Florida Administrative Code both require the LCB to have a bylaw and ensure that we are following a process for grievances. It ensures that we have a process for how we are going to conduct ourselves as a body. So these are very important to have. They are published on our website at palmbeachtpa.org/LCB under the important documents section. These were adopted at our August meeting. I already covered the attendance, so we're going to skip this slide and move into the grievance procedures. Now, we love our flowcharts in government, but we're particularly fond of this one. On the left side of the screen, more or less, if Palm Tran Connection receives a complaint, they go through a series of steps to ensure that that process is addressed in a formal fashion. If it's a safety related complaint, they have 24 hours to respond. If it's a non-safety related complaint, they have 48 hours to respond. If the process is followed and resolved, there's no action on behalf of the TPA. If it is an unresolved complaint, the grievant party may request formally that the DOPA become involved, and they have 10 days to contact the DOPA, being the TPA, and then we have to follow a series of steps to attempt to resolve any issues, going through a very standardized process of publishing dates, ensuring meeting times, and then ultimately referring a written complaint may be filed with the state if that process doesn't get resolved through this agency and this subcommittee that has been appointed already. The grievance subcommittee processes and investigates all unresolved grievances. And I believe the current makeup of that committee is our chair, Chair Reed, Vice Chair Dang, and our representative for the elderly, Mr. Bonfiglio. So we appreciate all of your service. Thankfully, we have not had any grievances during my time, and I think during many of your time here as well at the LCB. So we're very proud of that. But if that were to come about this process, these 3 members of the local coordinating board will go through that process I just described and make recommendations to this community transportation provider. We can make a recommendation to the CTC if necessary. However, we don't possess any adjudicative powers or determinative powers. So we're largely an advisory body, as I stated before at the beginning of this presentation. So LCB voting, I don't think that there is anything contentious or anything that it would require anyone to not vote on an issue, but our bylaws prohibit abstaining from voting. So you are either a thumbs up or a thumbs down for voting on for the purposes of our action items at our body. So just as a point of clarification. And then lastly is our timeline of LCB duties. So we are currently at our 2nd quarterly meeting where we have approved our AOR. We're going through our member training. And in February, we'll be kicking off our CTC evaluation, as well as having a public hearing on the CTC services and ways to improve the overall transportation disadvantage program here locally. At our last meeting to be held in May on the 29th, we will conclude our CTC evaluation and adopt it and refer it to the state for approval. So with that, I'd like to say thank you. I know that is a lot of information, but if you have any questions, happy to answer them.
All right, don't go anywhere. Also, we have a couple questions and you'll be up again. And then before I go to our board, do we have anyone remotely or out there for public comments?
No, Madam Chair.
All right, sure. Mr. Bonfiglio, you have your card up.
I do. I have a couple of questions. I recall when I was on the Ocean Ridge Commission, we had to undergo a training, 1-day training session. I don't recall the name. I thought it dealt mostly with sunshine law and to train us on sunshine laws issues. Chairwoman Reed, do you still have to go through that as an elected official in Palm Beach Gardens? You know what I'm talking about?
We have to do ethics training annually, which is due right about now. So we have to do a 4-hour state mandated and another hour for the county.
Does that apply to us? Do we have to undergo that same ethics training? And the second question is, the legislature, I think, recently passed some pretty cumbersome financial disclosure rules, which is causing a consternation, especially amongst the smaller governing bodies, you know, small towns and things like that. Are we covered by the new financial disclosure obligations too?
I've not been made aware of those disclosure obligations.
I got it.
Okay, thank you.
So
Charlie.
there's a new statewide mandate called Form 6, which requires any elected official, no matter your ranking, if you're just a local city council member like myself, or you're the governor, you now have to disclose every asset that you own, have made, or otherwise. And that is only for anyone who has taken an elected oath of office in the state of Florida. So you guys do not need to share any of that unless you run for office, and then be prepared to let everyone know how much your grandmother's ring is, because they're going to want to know and how much you spent for your sleep number bed. That will have to be on there too.
Oh,
So,
I'm
yeah.
running away from office.
Yeah, I don't blame you. Did that answer your question then?
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, so Form 6, it used to be Form 1. And so this year it's all been changed. So any elected official has to report, I believe, by July 1st, all of your assets and the date ending of December 31st of 2023.
So that just leaves the question on whether we have to do the ethics training every year.
We've not done an ethics training in the past for
Okay.
this local coordinating board. I do not believe that it is required. I will double check the bylaws and refer back to you. I do believe that because we are an advisory, we are an advisory body and we are a local coordinating board, that sunshine laws, which is the other point that you did bring up, do apply. So if there's an item before this body, generally you shouldn't be calling Basti or Laura and talking to them about it ahead of time. That would violate that law. So if you're not familiar with it, there are each of your agencies or each of your bodies respectively probably have very good information on it. And there's very good Attorney General information about sunshine laws out there already, if you would like to seek that out.
So we are covered by the sunshine law then? We
Yes,
can't
sunshine law
influence
applies to
each other.
any public governing body that is advisory or
Yeah.
has any type of action authority in nature.
Essentially, we can go up and down, but we can't go across.
Correct. You can
Any
speak to
commissions.
staff and you can talk to your executive leadership, but you cannot try to influence or talk to staff about the agenda items in a way that it modifies it. So just be aware of that. As I said before, the Attorney General has really good, easy to process, easy to digest information about sunshine laws out there already. And I do not believe that, well, ethics laws applies to everybody in the state of Florida, but I don't believe that we've formally gone through a training and we don't require the training as part of this body.
Thank you.
Good question. The only thing I will add, if that's okay, if everyone's done, is just everyone do take a good look at that presentation. It does have the dates for the upcoming year on there. So make sure, since we only meet quarterly, that your schedule is available to keep joining us. So that's it. All right, Brian, we have another presentation. Let's go ahead and we're going to talk about the Palm Tran Connections Efficiency Project.
Sure, thank you. And I am actually going to defer to Palm Tran staff, who are going to have Christian Ladano come up and make this presentation. We're very excited about this. Palm Tran and the Palm Beach TPA have been very closely discussing service efficiencies and other things. So we're excited to see this project moving through. The TPA recently was at the Palm Tran Service Board last month and discussed similar efficiencies on the fixed route program. So we're excited to bring some of the Connections Efficiency Project and fixed route service before you today to receive your feedback as well. So with that, I'd like to invite Christian to make his presentation.
Christian, we really appreciate that you are here today for this presentation.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, board members, Director Nielsen. My name is Christian Londano. I'm the Director of Support Services at Palm Tran. Proudly been serving under Clinton Forbes since he came to Palm Tran. And, first I want to thank you for your moment of silence, your words of condolences and support. It means a lot to us and to the Palm Tran family. And I want to say that, rest assured that Clinton put together a strong team at Palm Tran, and we're going to carry out his legacy and his vision. And we look forward to continue partnering with you to make it a reality. So thank you for that. So I'm going to start today talking about our service changes. A lot of these are coming in January. There's service changes, as Brian mentioned, were presented to our Palm Tran Service Board just recently, and it was passed unanimously. Our recommendations, let me go back on that animation. So as you are aware, we have 3 modes of service at Palm Tran. We have our fixed route, our paratransit, and our GoGlades mobility on demand. We're actually getting ready to launch a 4th service which is commuter bus, and that will be the Port St. Lucie service coming from Gatlin Boulevard in Port St. Lucie straight to downtown West Palm Beach. We're very excited. That was passed also by our Board of County Commissioners, and we're preparing with a potential launch in January. So now we will have 4 modes, and we continue working on that multimodal vision for our county. But today we're going to focus on the fixed route and paratransit. We're diving into potential efficiencies in our service. And we're going to talk about first the fixed route service efficiencies. So you have here on the screen routes 21 and 52. Those are assessed as some of our less productive routes in our system. And our proposal, based on the board direction, is to eliminate Route 21 and Route 52. Route 21 is in the Riviera Beach, North Palm Beach area, and the Route 52 is in the Royal Palm Beach area. And also we have some minor service modifications on other routes in our system. However, what we're presenting also is somehow of a transition in the way that we deliver service to those areas and those communities. So to make sure that those communities are still have access to that transportation, we're proposing a TNC voucher pilot program that we're launching in those areas where folks will have the opportunity, very similar to when we launched GoGlades. So when GoGlades started in the Glades community, it came from eliminating Route 48. We actually merged Route 47 and 48, and then we launched this demand response service. And in the community, there was a lot of anxiety, right? Like, you're taking away my route. And is this new service going to work? So this is very similar to that, where we're taking a fixed route service, but we're making adjustments to make sure that we're serving the community. So how are we doing that? On the graph on the left side, you have Route 33 and 20. Those are existing routes, but those two routes are going to experience some minor rerouting modifications to make sure that the critical segments that Route 21 is currently serving are still going to be served through the fixed route system. On top of that, we'll have a TNC first last mile program. So that's how we ensure that those folks in that area have still access to transportation. In the right side, you have Route 52. That's the Royal Palm Beach area. That route is going away, but in place we have that TNC voucher program where folks can, take that service and connect to Route 43 on Okeechobee Boulevard, as well as reach the Wellington Green Mall, where they have access to several of our major routes. So these modifications allow us to identify a 2.4 million savings. However, our ask to the Board of County Commissioners is to allow us to reinvest the savings into the community. So the two major changes on the top is the elimination of Route 21 and 52, as I just explained to you. And then in the bottom, we have reinvestment. So what are we trying to do? First, fund 3 TNC pilot programs. In those areas we spoke about, we have one in Royal Palm, we have that one in Riviera, North Palm Beach Gardens area, and then we have one in the Boca Raton area, which I'll talk about in a little bit. In addition to that, we're looking to increase frequency on Route 3. Route 3 traverses Military Trail from Palm Beach Gardens to Boca Raton. So why Route 3? And this is the reasoning of that decision right here on this slide. Route 1, 43, and 62 are among our most popular routes in our system, more efficient routes, and they have a frequency of every 20 minutes. If you're standing at the bus stop, folks really using these routes, they don't really look at the schedule because they know they just come out and the bus is a few minutes away. So if you notice, we have US 1 corridor, also from Palm Beach Gardens to Boca Raton. You have Okeechobee Boulevard, another main arterial in our county, and then you have Lake Court Road on Route 62. So Route 3 is that other north-south corridor that is a really good corridor for transit because it has mixed use, it has several origin and destinations. There's a lot of places to go to, and we've seen in Route 3 ridership increasing. So in the bottom, that bar chart that you have there, that's an example of what increasing the frequency on a transit corridor translate into. So Route 43, we increased the frequency in 2021, and every subsequent year since then, we've seen an increase in ridership. First, from 2021 to 2022, 15% increase. From 2022 to 2023, 22% increase, and it's still growing. So we believe that by increasing frequency on Route 3, we're going to see an increase in ridership. We're not only increasing the frequency during the week from 30 minutes to 20 minutes, but we're also increasing the frequency on Sundays from 60 minutes to 45 minutes, if I'm not mistaken, which will yield that ridership as well. So again, this is the summary of the 3 TNC voucher pilot programs. We're targeting to start in January. And these programs would be operated in collaboration with Uber, Lyft, and taxi services. Now, this is a type of program that is getting very popular in our transit industry. Our neighbors on the west, Pinellas Suncoast Transit Authority, released this program, and they have it operating in the Pinellas area. And we're actually piggybacking of their contract to be able to bring the services. So we're like Mr. Forbes was to say, we're fast adapters. When, we see that something works, then we definitely want to bring it to our county as well. Now, on Route 92 in the Boca area, we're not eliminating the entire route. We're only eliminated a segment in the east portion that has a little bit of duplication with Broward County Transit because they already traverse in that area and connect with us on Route 92. So by eliminating that segment, we can increase the frequency on Route 92 in the segment that currently works is the most productive, and we can put that TNC first last mile so folks have still something to fall on with this portion of the service going away. So I want to explain to you how this TNC voucher pilot program works. So let's imagine that you live in the Royal Palm Beach area. Maybe you live in one of those little houses that are depicted here in this graph. So you first go into the service and select the origin. So let's think that the origin of your trip is the curve of your house. And that's an advantage for those people in those communities. Now they're going to get transportation from their houses. Think about the land development in that area, right? Like you have gated communities. It's not very conducive for public transit. We're missing some sidewalks. So for folks to get to the bus stop, to get to public transit is a little challenging. So this kind of works like a first last mile program, right? So we come and pick you up at the curve. Now, your origin or destination has to be either the curve within the area or a predetermined point within the zone. So let's say in Royal Palm Beach, in this area, there is a Publix, and there is a place that everybody lives there, would frequent, would want to go. So we would make it into the app as a predetermined place. So now I'm in my house, I want to go to Publix, I put my address is within the area. Now I'm going to put Publix, which is already there. I don't even have to put the address. So that's how, you request the trip. Now, if the trip is 2.5 miles, the customer co-pays $2. That's the current cost of riding the fixed route service. You pay $2 to ride the fixed route. And the voucher is $8. So the voucher will cover that one-way trip, 2.5 miles. If the customer's trip exceeds the subsidy within the zone, the customer will be responsible for the difference. So the idea is that this is a first last mile. This is connecting you also to other bus stops. It's connecting you to the Wellington Green Mall so you can continue your trip if you need to travel farther. Now, let's say that your trip is within the zone. Like I mentioned, let's say that you're going to Publix from your house. Well, you will have a direct trip from your house to Publix and back. If customer does not have a smartphone or requires an ADA vehicle, ADA accessible taxis will be deployed by telephone. So we're thinking about not just the folks that might be technology savvy and have already the Lyft or Uber app, but all the different makeup of our community and those that are disabled and those that might not be able to use the technology as well. And something that I want to point out in here is Tri-Rail currently has this in place for transportation from and to the stations, the Tri-Rail stations. They have a voucher. So what you do is you just pull your Uber app on your phone. There's no additional app. You just pull your Uber app and then you enter the discount code. The discount code now is saved on your phone. So every time that your trip is in that area, let's say that you're going to the Tri-Rail station, it automatically applies the voucher. So for this would apply the same. You're going to Uber, originating at your house, you're going to that Publix within the area, it automatically applies the $8 voucher and you only have to pay $2. So that's how it operates. Now, as you can see here, the kind of like the animation that I'm doing for you, this is a pilot. So we're starting with the area that is being affected. So Route 52, the areas that is covering, that's the area that we're starting the zone with. Why? Because this, we have to be tracking this pilot and tracking the cost, right? We want to keep this, make it successful and keep the cost under control. But we have the possibility of expanding the zone as we get feedback from the community and from the several boards where we bring this information back to. So that's also a possibility. On top of the fixed route efficiencies that we just discussed, we also, our team identified some operational efficiencies. One of those is maximizing grant revenues. In the existing grants that we have, we're finding ways to use those grants to supplement some of our expenses that we're currently using ad valorem funds for. So we can decrease that burden on ad valorem funds. So, between that and the second part, eliminating redundancy, what this is we, during COVID, we contracted for the deep cleaning and disinfecting services for our fixed route buses. So overnight, we had a crew that comes in and does a deep clean disinfecting of the buses. But if you might remember, last year, we actually put in place a state-of-the-art system in all of our buses, in our paratransit service as well. And what this does is that it's continuously disinfecting the bus, all the areas of the bus. You could even say that being inside the bus is a more sterile and clean environment than outside of the bus. So because it's continuously disinfecting the bus and preventing the propagation of viruses and things like that, we found that redundancy, that we don't need that disinfecting at night, and this system that was already put in place. So with that, we're taking away that deep cleaning, saving us $1.1 million, and overall operational efficiencies of $5 million that we were able to bring back to the board. So we're very proud of our team being able to identify those efficiencies. Now, going to the paratransit side of the operation, again, continuing the implementation of our connection efficiency project. There's some initiatives that we presented to the board, specifically 3 recommendations. The first one is aligning the ADA service area with the FTA guidelines. What it means is making sure that we're providing the service that we're required to provide, and we identify also the service that we're not required to provide. Why? Because this is paratransit service, a very costly service. But what do we do about the service that we're not required to provide? So for that, our second recommendation is to launch an alternative transportation services program. So what it does is provide those folks that are transportation disadvantaged access to transportation, so they can still get to their medical appointments. They can, do what they need to do out there in the community. And the third recommendation is to adjust fares to the federal guidelines. So our federal guidelines is for paratransit service, you can charge up to twice the cost of your fixed route service. So our fixed route fare is $2. Then we're able to charge up to $4 for the paratransit service. Currently, we charge $3.50. So we have that wiggle room to go to $4. I want to remind you right now, an average paratransit trip costs us north of $50. So even those 50 cents, even though it seems, a small increase, it would definitely help, to offset that cost. So again, the first recommendation, align ADA service area with FTA guidelines. For the most part, you see here the map of our county. The part on your right, the magenta, is kind of like what is considered the ADA core area. And then the other part of our county is the area that is kind of like the transportation disadvantage. So we have the area where we have to provide paratransit trips, and we have the area where we don't have to, but we still provide those trips today. And the numbers on the right, fiscal year 2022, Palm Trend Connection riders, we had 8,084 unique riders actively riding the system. Out of those 8,000 riders, 5,400 are ADA riders, meaning that are riders that are taking trips that were required to provide by federal law. But then you have 2,600 that are transportation disadvantaged. So those folks, were not required to provide that paratransit service to them. So that's important to identify those, because that goes to our second recommendation, which is launching that alternative transportation services program to address that part of the community, that 2,600, right? So how will we do that? So federally mandated ADA service will be provided by Palm Trend Connection. So the area that we're required by law to provide paratransit service will continue getting that paratransit service. Now, the area that we're not, that's where the alternative transportation services will come in. And how would they come in? Similar to the TNC voucher program, with the difference that this would not be a voucher program. This will be actual transportation for those folks to get to where they need to go to. So Uber, Lyft, for those that can utilize an ambulatory curb-to-curb service and use technology associated with the program. So that part of the community will be able to access Uber and Lyft. Compliant door-to-door service through user for those that do not have a mobility or disability restriction. So they would be able to access user, and AD accessible taxi for non-ambulatory. So there's all these, conglomerate of services that would address each portion of our riders to make sure that they will continue having transportation. And the fare for the service will be the same for the ADA service. So that would also alleviate that burden, right? If the folks in the ADA area are paying $3.50 or eventually $4, then, we don't want to overburden the folks that are in the non-ADA area. So the third recommendation, adjusting ADA fare to federal guidelines. So why is this important? First, demand management. So we'll folks, as they're taking trips, they will take into consideration the trips that are taking. The other thing is FDA recognizing there's a high cost for the paratransit operation, so they allow us to go there to offset a little bit the cost of the operation. The last adjustment was in 2013, 10 years ago. We went from $3 to $3.50. And again, our recommendation is to go from $3.50 to $4. That's a 14% increase. This specific recommendation requires a separate board action item by the BCC. So at this point, for the most part, we're asking the BCC to allow us to pursue the implementation of these recommendations, but each one of these required to be brought back to the BCC for approval. So this is pretty much the summary of those efficiencies and service changes that I presented to you this afternoon. First, on the fixed route service, again, reinvesting the $2.4 million we found in efficiencies. All these service changes will become effective January 2024, eliminating Route 52 and 21, putting in place 3 TNC voucher programs, and also increasing frequency on Route 3. The second one, operational efficiencies, $5 million in efficiencies, both maximizing grants and eliminating redundancy in the cleaning services. And then the third recommendation is to continue the implementation of our connection efficiency project. Again, using a phase approach with each phase to be approved by the BCC, meaning that those 3 recommendations that pertain to paratransit service, each one would require to be brought back to the several boards for approval. So those 3 are the adjustment of fares to federal guidelines. We're targeting to do that during fiscal year 2024. The second one, align ADA service area with FDA guidelines, and that's starting developing that phase approach in fiscal year 24, but moving with the implementation up to fiscal year 27, and launching the alternative transportation services beyond the 3/4 of a mile, which is the TD service plan, fiscal year 24 to fiscal year 2027. Our next steps, where we are with these changes at this point, presentation to the TPA, October to December, we're doing all these presentations as required by the board, presenting to the TPA, Village of Royal Palm Beach, City of Boca Raton, City of Riviera Beach, City of Palm Beach Gardens, and Village of Wellington. So pretty much all the municipalities that are being affected by these changes, we've been directed to bring a presentation and make them aware of what's coming. The second thing, direct Palm Trans Service Board to hold public hearing on recommendations. We held that public hearing on October 26th. We got support from the community and the different stakeholders, and unanimously the Palm Trans Service Board approved these recommendations. Now, where the next step is that third step, when November 28, we'll be back in front of the Board of County Commissioners to ratify this plan that it was just presented to you. And the number 4 will be begin implementation of the recommendations with a phased approach starting in fiscal year 24 to fiscal year 27. And with that, Madam Chair, that's the end of my presentation.
Thank you. Excellent. I'm sure we'll have some questions. Do we have anything first from our remote participants or the public?
No, Madam Chair.
All right, I have a couple cards up. So I think that Laura had her card up first, if you want to go ahead.
Thank you. So I work for the school district, and particularly in support of our students with disabilities, and in particular our students with disabilities as they're becoming adults and learning adult independent skills. So I wanted to ask a question about the route elimination. Route 52 in particular caught my eye. We have students in one of our secondary transition programs, which is out in the community. So they never set foot on a school district campus. And a big part of what we do with them is teach them how to ride fixed route buses because they will not typically become drivers on their own. And so I know that we have children who ride, young adults, I should say, who ride on 52 and ride around and go to the Wellington Green Mall where they're also able to connect to other routes. So one of my questions, I guess, is if somebody was getting on in Locks Groves and riding along on that and getting to the Wellington Mall and going end to end, that looks as though it's going to exceed the 2.5 miles that the voucher would cover. Is that correct?
Right. So the Route 43 is another way to access the Wellington Green Mall. So what they can do is use this voucher program to get to the bus stop on Okeechobee Boulevard. So their trip will be covered with the voucher program and then get on Route 43. So what we're doing is because you already did the $2 copay, you already paid on the app $2, we're allowing you to transfer for free onto the fixed route. So for them, that ride today that is costing them $2 to get to the Wellington Green Mall, it will still cost them after this implementation $2.
So it will still cost them an additional $2?
Not an additional $2. No, they will still pay.
It'll be the same
$2
fee.
copay.
They just are gonna have to plan ahead for the extra changes over and
Right,
all of
so it
that.
could be able to transfer to Route 43. That's correct.
Okay. I guess I will just say this, I grew up in a very large metropolitan area with massive transit, including metro and buses all over the place. And I just feel very disappointed whenever we reduce routes.
Me as well, but it's challenging. And I tell you, even today, one of the things we're seeing with the rising cost of even vehicle ownership. So, a few years back, high schoolers were graduating, their parents would give them a car. And today, that's not the case. We're seeing a lot of kids riding our buses. And, one of the big hangout spots are the malls. They go to all the malls. So, with our team and our marketing team, we're working very closely with a lot of those schools, teaching kids how to ride the service, onboarding them into our Paradise Pass so they always have their fare ready and they can get to where they need to go. Even now, even more now with those young adults that are graduating from school and they're trying to get to college, they're trying to get to their first job. So we keep that in mind as we're making those decisions.
And I would also, because one of the things I've talked about over the years that I've been on the board is that it would really be great. And I guess we're not going in that direction right now. And I do understand money is involved. But as you say, students are less and less and less getting their own driver's licenses. Just as a trend, I know it's true in my family, my extended family, students that we work with, they don't want to drive anymore. They don't want to deal with it. They don't want to pollute, a lot of different reasons for it. And so having a fixed route in front of every one of our public high schools, we have comprehensive public high schools that don't have any bus routes in front of them. And it's something that I've been advocating for, and I will again advocate for that. We need to have access to all of our large community centers, just like our hospitals.
Yeah, and if I add something on that, so we're currently working with one of our consultants and collaborating with the school board to find opportunities to partner and increase our partnership in the way that we serve our students in our community. So our consultant draft some recommendations, and we're currently working with county administration evaluating those so we can better support the students in our county.
All right, excellent. We have a card from Mr. Bonfiglio, and then after Mr. Bonfiglio will be Mr. Goodman.
Thank you. I agree with Commissioner Schultz. I'm always concerned when you reduce routes. I have a hard time wrapping my head around the question, how does that make people's lives easier, better, and safer when you reduce access to transportation? Let me see if I understand correctly, especially in, Section 21, which not only serves a minority community, but also serves probably an elderly minority community, which is, representative for the elderly. That concerns me. Do I understand you correctly to say that you're going to combine some of the route of 21 with other routes? Do you know how many elderly use the services and how close they are to the fixed route that exists and how close they are to the proposed new route? do you have an idea what that number is?
So our basis, we don't know specifically how many of those are elderly that we're currently riding on Route 21. Again, one of the reasons we chose Route 21 as well as Route 52 is because it has low ridership. There's not a lot of people currently using those services to, be able to access to transportation. Now, what we do have is we have bus stop specific boarding and lighting data. So we know where people are getting off, we know where people are getting on, and we know what specific communities in that segment are being affected with this change. Now, what we did is existing routes 20 and 33 that are traversing in that area, they're being modified. The alignment is being modified. So the communities where people are currently riding, they will still have access to fixed route. So in a sense, they're getting two things. They're getting still access to fixed route service, more frequent service. And second, they're getting this TNC program that allows them from the curb of their houses to be able to access the fixed route service.
Okay, so have you done anything to determine whether or not it's a lack of interest by the residents or an inability to get to the stops on fixed route 21 that is the result of the low ridership? What have you done to figure that out?
Right. So that's a little challenging question, but I'll try to answer it. So, well, one of the things that we're looking at is, making sure that our bus stops are ADA accessible. So one of the mandates of the federal government is that we have a place, an ADA transition plan, meaning that every bus stop that is currently not ADA accessible, we're required by the federal government to have a plan to start retrofitting those bus stops into ADA compliance. So if there's currently a bus stop that is not accessible and therefore folks like the elderly are not using it, we're in the process of currently retrofitting those bus stops so they become accessible and they can use them.
Well, maybe the current stops aren't at a place where it's easy to get to by either the ridership in that area or the elderly in that area. I mean, how do you know that's not the problem as opposed to just no interest in the route?
Right. And that's something our planning team is currently is continuously evaluating as we're assessing the makeup of the community. A lot of the challenges that we observe in this type of communities is we have gated communities with several units, and then from the house to outside of the communities, 30 minutes walking. So that's one of the challenges that a lot of the times deters the elderly community to want to access the service.
Intuitively, I don't think there are as many gated communities in Riviera Beach as there are in other parts of Palm Beach County, just intuitively speaking. So I don't think that answers the question. And not only being representative of the elderly, the elderly people have a hard time, like me, walking a long distance. Maybe that's part of the problem too. They can't walk from their home to get to the fixed route, spot on the route. Have you figured that out if that's the problem?
So in our industry, the trend that we've seen is establishing a first last mile program, right? Is that portion that you're talking about is what we refer to as the first mile from your house all the way to the bus stop.
Yes.
So this TNC voucher program would allow for that because the folks from the curve of their house will be picked up and taken to the bus stop.
Yeah.
So that's how we're addressing that. And that's how our peers in similar communities are addressing that
Okay,
issue.
but an elderly disabled person or one who has a hard time ambulating is going to need a smartphone, right? Well, if they're like me, they have a hard time figuring out how to get to point A to B on their smartphone. And number two, they may not be able to afford a smartphone. You know how much this thing costs? It sounds like a plan that is isolating the minority community even more from public transportation than it is helping the community in Riviera Beach.
So our TNC voucher program, it includes different options for folks to be able to access this first last mile service. So yes, there is the technology, Uber and Lyft, but they would also have access to just call for taxi. You just call a phone number, as simple as that. And also a lot of the constituents you're speaking about that you maybe have some heart disabilities or they're very elderly and they're not able to access the fixed route or the bus stop, they fall under our paratransit service. So we have that door-to-door ADA service. They will classify it under ADA, where we actually go to their door of their houses. The driver gets off the vehicle and goes all the way to the door and escort them into the vehicle. So if they're within that group where they're technology challenged, they're very much disabled and elder, they fall under our ADA services, and most likely they're already using them. So that's not going away for them. That's still there. In many ways, we're enhancing the way they can access public transportation in that region.
Okay, now I also saw in your presentation that you're going to broadcast or meet with like Riviera Beach. I assume that's going to be at the town hall at a public meeting. What else are you going to do to reach out to the residents to tell them this service is available? So they know, hey, I can get to the transportation either by using my telephone, calling a taxi at a discount price. What steps are you taking to inform the public, especially in Route 21, that even though you're cutting back on the fixed route service, they will still be able to get service at their essentially curbside service. Excuse me, curbside service. Say that fast 3 times.
Thank you for that question. I really appreciate that question because that's something that we're working on and is a robust communication plan. So if you notice on the timeline, we're waiting for the Board of County Commissioners to ratify this plan on November 28th. So we cannot just get the word out to the community until this is approved for implementation. So we're pending to November 28th. Now, what we have been doing on direction by the Board of County Commissioners is getting in front of the municipalities, letting them know, capturing feedback. We held a public hearing on the changes. Now, once we get to November 28th, hopefully we get that final approval from the Board of County Commissioners, then that's where our robust communication plans start. So we're partnering with each municipality to be able to reach their constituents through their different outlets. That's one thing. Second, all of our vehicles have infotainment screens in the front and behind the bus operator's seat and also behind the second door in the back. So pretty much everybody on the bus can see these screens. So we use those screens to start communicating the changes and letting the folks that are currently riding the service, which will be impacted, that these changes are coming. We also have announcements on the vehicle that we're using. We have in our PalmTran app, we have service alerts. So folks, as they're requesting each one of the, let's say they're riding Route 52. So they go into the app to see when is the next bus or Route 52. Automatically, they get the alert that this service is changing. So we are planning a robust plan to communicate to the constituents, and rest assured, all the constituents that are currently riding the service, they'll be well ahead informed before this takes place in January.
I appreciate that, and that's a good plan, but what about the people who would like to use the service but can't use it or don't use it because they're not aware or they can't walk to the stop, things like that? How are you going to reach those folks?
So let me just back it up a little bit to make you understand a little bit more about this. This conversation actually started with the change of the Board of County Commissioners. Okay. We have new Board of County Commissioners, and they questioned how much we spent at PalmTran. Okay. So we brought a workshop to them in April, and out of that workshop, we did bring the idea of, dedicated funding source for PalmTran, for transit in Palm Beach County, which they did not like. So if you take a step back and say, this plan is reshuffling the seats on the deck because we can't get any more money, and we're also saving money. When you look at a business, any business, right, you look at what's working and what's not working. So if they're not using this part of it, how can we make this more efficient and better and then take that value from that and reinvest it in something that is working? Okay. But also changing with the times, and the fact that we've also recognized that transit is changing. Transit's not, unfortunately, it's not only the big bus. It's also these TNCs, these taxis, and it's incorporation of all kind of different coordination. This starts our coordination as to how we can be more inclusive. I would say we would be more inclusive to everyone. So right now, really, if you look at it as this route of 21 no one's riding it for reasons, whatever those reasons are. But now if we change it up, reallocate those resources to someone else, but then give them an alternative where maybe they now would ride it because we're coming to their curb and we're picking them up at their curb, then we're taking them out to do something else. So that's kind of the thought process behind it, as if we go backwards to see that we're trying to reallocate the resources that we have to better our whole system by also implementing new technology, new services, and kind of changing with the times as well.
Respectfully, Commissioner Farai, we are not a business. We are not supposed to turn a profit. As a governmental entity, we are required to provide service that improves the health, safety, and welfare of the citizens. And I just don't see how this improves the health, safety, and welfare, especially of those residents in Riviera Beach and Route 21.
Mr. Bonfiglio, if I could recommend that on November 28th, when this is brought to the county commission, who encouraged this change of process, that you let them know your concerns, and that's probably the better place to be able to get some sort of an impact from the words that you're sharing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
And Madam
So,
Chair,
yes,
if I
sir.
can just chime in on a little bit of what's going on outside of Palm Beach County too. This is happening everywhere. Not simply because, and I don't disagree that this is not, operating like a business. This is a public benefit. This is a public service that we're providing. Nevertheless, many transit agencies are facing a fiscal cliff where we are going to run out of money. We're going to necessarily have to look at efficiencies. And I would just, if the board is interested, I would recommend you look at some of the research cooperative program that is nationally published, where we are, as an industry, trying to see how we can place more paratransit riders into these new technology programs and into existing fixed route systems. I'm happy the industry representative also is putting their card up. Maybe she would like to elaborate a little bit more.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner, I understand your questions are very valid and they are happening around the nation. Christian, thank you for your time and your thorough presentation. I know what it takes for the planning team to actually go through this. It's not easy. Just echoing on what Brian said, that is the trend happening within the industry and the nation. We are engaged with the American Public Transit Association, who have the experts as well who are helping with these solutions, but I can affirm that all agencies are governed by the Title VI. So there is a process by which we have to engage the community. All organizations that are represented on this board have to be engaged, as well as some workshops that Christian alluded to. So thank you for explaining the process by which something would go before the commission before it could actually legally even be considered. So I would also say that the industry is shifting to many different types of vehicles, different types of way of how we're getting to the customers and the needs, from technology to vehicles, to different types of solutions and partners. So we're going to see more and more of this coming before the board. And Madam Chair, if I may suggest, perhaps one of the meetings, we may want to take maybe a broader look at what's happening nationwide so that we can understand when these things are coming to us, what is happening. But the most important thing is, thank you for engaging all of us, because all the stakeholders are mostly represented here. And as a caregiver of an aging father who relies on this transportation, I get it. I'm from the customer side as well. And so I just think these are just very difficult conversations, but nonetheless, they have to occur in partnership with one another and engagement with one another, and making sure that we're reaching everybody in whatever mode they can communicate with us. Because to his point, not everybody can reach a meeting or can actually get to the system. So we have to make sure that we're also engaging how we're reaching out to all the constituents. So again, thank you for your time, and thank you, Brian, for your comments. And I do encourage you to continue to educate us on what's happening nationwide on this subject.
All right, thank you so much. We do have,
Thank you.
we have a public comment as well. Are you done with your
Yeah, I
comment?
just want to say thank you.
Oh, you bet. Okay, thank you. All right, public comment, please.
James Green would like to make a comment.
Yeah, so I just want to ask Christian and others, if when this information is disseminated, if it can be sent to the major funders for the health and human services providers so that we can share it with our constituents. I think we have a pretty broad network of low-income residents who would potentially be affected by this. And it would be nice if we were able to let our nonprofit organizations who serve these residents know, as well as the individuals they serve. So we just want to be there to support you in getting this information out so that so that they know what the next steps are and how they can activate this service.
Duly noted, Dr. Green. We'll make a note of following up on that.
And also, for a comment from the chair, I always like to wait till everyone's done, but I was going to say this is an extraordinarily connected board. So I would like to encourage all of us to make sure we get all of this information out after you're done with the county commission and things are finalized, to make sure that we'll take that on as well to help share as much as we possibly can, because that's what we're here for. And I don't see any other comment cards. I don't see any other comments from the public or from Zoom land. Let's see, as far as the request at looking at the national comparison, as well as since you're utilizing the contract with Pinellas, I do think that's something that I will talk to our TPA executive director about, doing some sort of an information item at one of our upcoming board meetings where we can perhaps have staff or if Palm Tran would like to be assistant, to assist it with it, to get a better look, because there's nothing quite like learning about ourselves by seeing what others have done, whether they have done well or done poorly, so that we can make sure that we go forward and support you guys as much as we can to make sure that we do continue to offer transportation for all. So any other comments, anything else? Thank you. That was, I've heard that presentation. I think that was the 4th time. And honestly, I learn more every time. It is nuanced, and I know it's a lot of information to share in a short period of time. So thank you so much. And I know you'll be back if we have more questions.
Of course.
All right,
Thank you,
good
Madam
luck.
Chair.
Thank you. All right. The cherry on top of our meeting. This is one of our favorite parts and probably why we are the best in the state. Can we say that every meeting for the next year? So we're going to have Nancy Yarnell, who's going to present about her role in our program here, as well as what she does. So also, if you don't mind, we may not be able to do it this meeting, but we need to do a list of who has and has not presented, especially with 2 new members coming on. So they'll get to present very soon as well. And then we'll probably do sort of a recap of everybody for our new members. All right. Thanks, Nancy.
Okay, thank you. I'm the Director of Consumer Care and Planning with the Area Agency on Aging on Palm Beach Treasure Coast. Whoop. Okay, there are over 600 area agencies across the United States. They were actually formally established in federal statute in 1973 under the Older Americans Act. And the Older Americans Act was started in 1965 by President Lyndon Johnson. The goal of that was to allow seniors to remain independent in their homes where they want to be, and in lieu of more costly nursing home care. It is the only federal supportive services program solely to meet the needs of older people. In 2005, they actually added an additional title, additional funding for caregivers, know how important they are to helping loved ones stay at home. And it is a comprehensive service infrastructure. If you look at the statute, there's a lot of requirements of what we're supposed to do. And we are planning in service area 9. It's the 5 counties here. There are actually 11 planning and service areas in the state of Florida. Our mission is to promote, support, and advocate for the independence, dignity, and well-being of seniors, adults with disabilities, and those who care for them in a manner that values diversity, reflects the communities we serve, and embraces the collaboration of the Aging Network. So we serve persons 60 plus. We serve family caregivers to those 60 plus. if they're 18 or older. I know that there are younger caregivers to older people. It's unfortunate that they aren't part of this program. We're aware of that and we advocate for that. We also serve grandparents or older individuals 55 plus who are relative caregivers to a child under 18 or an adult with a disability. And this is a little bit old, but this is the structure of the aging network. We're designated as an area agency by the Florida Department of Elder Affairs. There's 11 area agencies. We put out competitive bids for lead agencies who really are the case management agencies and all the supportive services that those seniors and caregivers need. And then there's service providers under those lead agencies. We also work with some service providers directly, and those are like home health agencies, home delivered meals. The one thing that we did at one time do a Medicaid waiver for assisted living facilities. We don't do that anymore, but we are the entry point for managed long-term care services, another part of the long-term care. And we have a lot of volunteers. These are the programs that we manage. The funding sources, the Older Americans Act is a federal program, and then there's several state programs, community care for the elderly, home care for the elderly, Alzheimer's disease. We have emergency home energy assistance. We have insurance counseling for seniors, free insurance counseling. Some low-income subsidies to help pay for their Part B, Part D, help them with food stamps. We have one local service program right now, and that's Ruth and Norman Rails Jewish Family Services, which has services for Holocaust survivors. And we still have American Rescue Plan funding. And then these are some of the services that seniors can get through those different programs. There's counseling, nutrition services, adult daycare, personal care, help with bathing, homemaking. We do have evidence-based healthy living programs to fall prevention, chronic disease, self-management, diabetes, self-management, respite for the caregiver, specialized medical equipment and transportation. We also have a helpline. We'll do information and referral as to where you might find other resources. We have programs that are non-Department of Elder Affairs. It's a foster grandparent program where they are given a stipend to work in the schools to mentor students. A Veterans Independence Program with the VA for in-home support for veterans. And the Benefits Enrollment Center is to help with those subsidies. These are our contracted providers in Palm Beach County. Alzheimer's Community Care and the Palm Beach County Board of County Commissioners. And then we do fund transportation services under the Older Americans Act. These are for individuals who are 60 or older, and it's for life-sustaining activities. And all of our transportation dollars have to be, we contract those out with the CTC or an entity that has a MOU with the CTC. So in Palm Beach County, that is Palm Beach County, and that actually works through the contracts with the County Commission, but it works through Community Services and the Division of Senior and Veteran Services, and then also the Volin Center. And so just to let you know what we can do, if you know a senior or caregiver who needs to know where to get help, just to get services for referral, you just call our helpline, and you all have our brochures there. And then if the senior wants to get some help from these other programs I showed you, they just call our helpline. They have a assessment, about a 40-minute assessment to see what their needs are and how frail they are. We serve the most frail first. There's a waiting list for a lot of services, not for congregate meals, though I encourage you to have seniors go to congregate meals and socialize. We also have help for the caregiver, counseling, evidence-based powerful tools for caregiver training, respite, and then our evidence-based programs. I think that's it. Any questions?
That's quite a lot. Do we have any questions from folks in Zoom or the public?
No, Madam Chair.
All right, anyone here? That was a lot of information, actually.
We do
So,
a lot.
It's great. All right, so we'll be hanging on to your brochures. Thank you, specifically for referrals. That's great to know. Thank you. Thanks, Nancy. All right, do we have any other partner agencies to present today?
No, Madam Chair.
All right, lovely. So let's go ahead and get ready to close out. I don't see any other comment cards as we finish up the meeting today. Our next meeting will be on February 28th, 2024. As we heard, we'll get to start digging in again so that we can get all of our reports and rides done by April. I know you guys are excited. Just got to wait till February and then we'll hear all about it. We've also got our calendar for the fiscal year of our activities attached. And so please do make sure that your calendars are free so that you can join us for these meetings. Since we are the best in the state, you won't want to miss it. Any other comments? I see nothing. So with that,
Oh, no,
I
just really
apologize,
quickly.
Brian, I didn't see you there.
I
Thank you.
have on our docket from previously volunteering, Mr. James Green, to present at our February 28th meeting. Are we going to ask for any other additional volunteers who have not yet presented to this body? You'd like to have on the agenda for February 28th?
I think we've had it. Have we had it?
Everybody?
You have not gone, Basti. Okay, so we'll take two. We've got Basti as well.
Basti as well. Okay, thank you.
And James, I don't know if you're still out there. That means you'll be presenting next
Yep.
next meeting.
I'll be ready.
You can bring cake.
Somebody better.
It's once every couple of months. I think there should be cake. All right,
Yeah,
so
we can-
nonetheless, anything else, anyone else? All right, with that, we are adjourned. We'll see you in February.
Thank you.